This is a test run. I don't know if it'll make it because I'm at my job. But there's not much to do. I might as well do this. So I finished the first season of Geass yesterday. I watched the first episode a week ago. It was very, very well done. I think it was one of the best first episodes to any anime ever. It definitely pumped you up for the rest of the series. And yesterday I watched episodes 2 to 25, insanely so. It's my birthday, so I figured I spent the whole day watching Geass. So I finished it. I already started season 2. I'm on episode 2 because I wanted to get some closure, and I watched 2 episodes ahead of the new season. But I want to go back and do season 1 because it makes it easier to review in two parts, obviously, than just one big chunk. Especially because I'm mostly improvise these things. And so when it comes to Geass, I had heard a lot about it and not know anything of it, so I figured I would try to give it a chance. And I finished Ghost Hound last week. I did my review of that already. And so I started Geass and finished it really, really fast because I actually really, really enjoyed it. Geass has to do with Lilac, who is a prince hiding in a school who is given the ability by chance that he can make anybody do whatever he tells them to do as long as he makes eye contact with him. And I think he can only do it once to each person. And he uses this ability to further the agenda that you already had, and which is to overthrow Britannia. In this anime, Japan has been destroyed and replaced as Area 1, completely controlled by the Britannians. And they've been trying to make resistance groups to resist and bring Area 11 back to being Japan again, independent sovereign nation. And there's already rebellious groups before this. That's where Kaylin comes from. Is that her name? The one with the pink hair. We're gonna call her Kaylin. So, actually, I should probably figure that out now. Huh? Yeah, Kaylin. So anyhow, in the very beginning, Lila kind of doesn't know what's going on, but he likes this power, and at the end he smiles and he's essentially ready to use it to further his war against Britannia. And he has a childhood friend called Suzaku who is in the military. He runs into Lilac, but he gets put away because his officials try to kill him because he had second thoughts about killing Lilac, but he survived thanks to a clock that he had in his clothes that dodged the bullet or reflected the bullet. And then Lilac meets. Oh, right, this is gonna have spoilers, so just prepare for that. So then Lilac ends up meeting this immortal witch type woman with green hair called Cece. She has a name, but they don't let the audience hear what it is when Lilac finds it out and says it. There were a bunch of raindrops going around. They kept focusing on the sounds of raindrops during it, so maybe that has something to do with it. And so this immortal type witch gives Lilac a contract and the power, and Lilac accepts. And though she gets shot and she actually survives, she seems to be, like I said, immortal. She takes mortal blows and does not seem to die. At the end, she took Orange down to the bottom of the ocean, and though she looked at it as she was committing suicide, she pops up again in season 2. So it's really unclear why she seemed like she was gonna die, and she just came back what looked like in one piece. And as Lilac starts to fight, he forms an alliance with the rebels that are fighting against Britannia, where Kaylin's a part of. We meet the character Ogi, and I really liked Ogi's character. I thought he was one of my favorite ones. Very honest, strong fighter, and it's unfortunate that he runs into that brown-skinned lady that got amnesia after getting shot by Shirley, because they had a romance going on, because she had lost her memory after Oogie took care of her, and they got close, and then at the end she regains her memory, and she was completely disgusted that she was falling in love with a 11 and shoots Oogie in the stomach. Though Oogie, it's unclear what happens at the end of season 1, but it looks like he was gonna survive because they were attending him. They were giving him medical attention. He's a prisoner in season 2, so we'll see where that goes. And then we have the guy with the red hair. I don't remember his name. He's the one that's very grumpy, and it's funny because they make fun of him that he's the first one to always lose in combat, and they actually do it in the anime. As soon as the fight starts, he'll charge in and gets beaten out right away. Then there's the woman with the purple hair. I forgot her name. She doesn't do much in the anime, but she's part of that group. They only the show for whatever reason likes to focus on her backside, which you see a lot of. But then towards the end, at the last episode, she dies. She gets killed off really, just out of nowhere right away, which is sad because I would have liked to see more on her character. They're almost not focused nothing on her. And then there's Kaylin, who kind of reminds me of characters like Orihime from Bleach, or is it Sakura, the useless one from Naruto. But you know, the whole time I'm thinking to myself, I really hope they don't make her another useless character like the pink hair girl in Naruto. I think, or another Orihime from Bleach. I do not want to see that again. But luckily, she's actually pretty strong. She has one of the more advanced nightmares, which are those mechas that they used to fight. And she's constantly going at it with Suzaku and with his Lancelot. And so she isn't completely useless. So I enjoyed the character, and she I'll get to the end later because the end is very complicated in a way, especially considering when you watch the beginning of season 2. They did kind of focus on her character arc about her mom, but that felt kind of forced and kind of rushed. I didn't really. It was touching, but it didn't move me as much as I thought it would. Then we have Suzaku, who is a childhood friend of Lilac. They grew up together, and he is one of the main focuses of the anime. And he's the opposite of Lilac. He believes in what is right. He believes in fighting. But he has faith in the system. He believes he can make change within the system. So he has that naiveness that the system, as rotten and corrupt as it is, can be saved, which I think is very naive. I think that Lilac has a superior view. And even though he tries to act all high and mighty and Mr. Good Justice guy, he killed his father when he was a kid. It's only found out because one of the characters that has a Geass that reads minds tells this out loud, where Lilac learns about it. We'll go about that later, though, when I talk about Mao. He has chosen, though, to drive the Lancelot, and there's a lot of contradiction surrounding that because he's an 11, and the Britannians don't consider him worthy enough of being a soldier in the military at such a high position, or being in there at all. Maybe in a high position. But he can synthesize very well with the machine. And Lloyd, who is an Earl and a very smart scientist, wants to keep this guy there. Now Lloyd is an Earl. He's one of the scientists in the show. His colleague, forgot her name, the girl that seems to like Suzaku. She pretty much explains his character in like 2 sentences or one towards the end of the show. How he confuses his work with playtime. He's a very optimistic and happy guy. Very sarcastic, likes to joke around. He's similar to like you could say Gen Ichimaru from Bleach, or Masayuki Nakajima from Ghost Town. They have that similar goofy, sarcastic type of attitude. He's a very smart individual. He's the one that designed and built the Lancelot. He very rarely is ever seen in distress. Only when the Lancelot is in danger, or when he tried to act smart with Suzaku and got punched in the face. That was. And then his colleague, whose name I can't remember, she becomes a pilot towards the end. She's kind of the one that keeps Lloyd in check, keeps him from, being too unprofessional and smug. she seems to be very close to Suzaku and defends him a lot. So, I'll get back to Suzaku because when the thing that happens to Ify happens, Euphoria, that's when it gets even more his character gets even more complex. Then you have other characters like the cat, that keeps biting Suzaku. Surprisingly enough, the cat actually does important things towards the end to help Suzaku. Then you have Mila, who is the student council president of the school that Lilac and Suzaku go to. She's sort of like Lloyd, like another smug, sarcastic type character, likes to joke around. You have Nina, who is a perverted, possibly lesbian, that has a very disturbing scene in the it's so in the middle of the anime, out of nowhere, you get a random scene where Nina is masturbating on a table to a picture of Euphoria in the dark, and Nuna, I think, Lilac's sister, blind sister, almost catches her, and she's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine," closes the book, and then the scene transitions. It was just a random scene that had no real purpose other than to show that there's something wrong with this woman. And well, not wrong, but just she's there's more to it. There's more to her than her innocent facade. And they do elaborate on her more later. How she basically has a psychotic breakdown. I'll get into that later. So I'm pretty in depth already. I really hope that I don't get interrupted because I'm already like 10 minutes in. Yeah, so I'm surprised. Yeah, so this is a very complex anime. This is not going to be a short review. Then it's Shirley, who in my opinion is involved in one of the best episodes in the show, when her memory gets wiped by Lilac. She is a student that has a crush from the student council that's a crush on Lilac, but she's too shy and scared to say it. And the classmates often tease her about it, and she does eventually finally ask him out, but they don't get to go to the concert because Lilac got involved in one of his battles where he had a mountainside blown up to attack the enemy, and the rock slide, though effective, kills Shirley's dad by accident, who happened to be innocent bystander. And Shirley just goes mental on Lilac when they finally meet up at the place late, and says, "Help me," and kisses Lilac. And she felt it was wrong. She felt she did it. She felt that she approached that the wrong way. And then the girl that ends up being taken care of by Ogi with the brown skin, she finds out that she had an experience with Lilac in the beginning of the show and kind of figured out he has the ability to maybe control people. And they say they happen to Orange, and when she asks Orange about it, she begins to suspect this kid of being Zero. And so she uses Shirley to kind of find out, and Shirley follows Lilac to one of the fights they had at the edge of the sea. And Lilac is doing good, but he's thwarted by Suzaku and ends up losing the battle and getting injured pretty badly. And he ejects from the mecha, crashes into the floor, and Shirley finds him, and his helmet happens to come off, and Shirley sees that it's Lilac. And so then the brown skinned woman comes up and says, "Oh, so it is him. He is Zero. Not only is he involved with the Black Knights, he is Zero." And she's just talking about how she's going to be promoted for turning him in, and she's going to reach high rank. And Shirley, still acting out of emotion she has for Lilac, despite that he kind of caused her dad to get killed, she instead uses the gun that Lilac dropped that she was going to shoot him with, ends up shooting her, and then just runs away. And that's when, she gets found later by Ogi, but lost her memory, and he takes care of her. They fall in love. I kind of already touched upon that in the beginning. Gets it back and shoots him in the stomach. And then there's more about Cece. Cece at first is an obnoxious character that likes to make fun of Lilac and pointing out all his contradictions. She becomes a little more serious along the way and ends up becoming attached to Lilac to the point where she kisses him at the end. Maybe she's falling in love with him. And she suicides with Orange at the end, but she survives apparently. So I don't know why she was talking about dying or suiciding during that point when she obviously is not going to die. So we're moving right along. Mao's character comes in. Mao is the person that CC did a contract with before Lilac. And his Geass allows him to read anybody's mind within 500 meters. It's a good thing because that's one way to really get into your opponent strategically. But its bad side is that he can't control it, and so if he's in a library or the school or in a public place, he's just bombarded with thoughts, and it makes him want to lose his mind. So he beats Lilac in a chess game after he kidnapped his sister and had her strapped to a bomb on top. And when Mao won, she was supposed to blow up, but she didn't, even though Lilac lost. And Lilac already had like a mental breakdown, like, oh no, my sister. Suzaku had apparently disarmed that bomb during that scene. And so Mao lost, and it turns out the entire time that Lilac had tricked him because he had done a recording. He had pre-recorded a conversation he was expecting to have with Mao, where he predicted his answers, and uploaded it to a big screen in a carnival that Mao wanted to meet him at. In the meantime, Lilac was hiding with the police in the background, which he had controlled with his powers, and essentially has Mao killed or shot, what we thought was to death. But it turns out in the next episode that he's still alive. And I think I kind of went ahead of myself there. That was the second time. That was when I guess that kind of, so even before all that, Mao kind of takes control of Shirley and tries to manipulate him into killing Lilac. They take that train ride to the top, and he just starts reading her thoughts and exploiting her to turn her against Lilac to shoot him. And it doesn't work because Shirley still feels too strongly about Lilac, and Lilac tried to defend himself, said what he had to say. But then CC comes out, and CC kind of saves him and distracts Mao and sends him back down. He tricks Mao to getting locked up in the train, sends him out. And that's when we learn that Mao has this obsession with CC. He's completely in love with her. And then one of the most touching scenes, or most emotional scenes, happen where Lilac knows now that Shirley knows who he is and that she'll probably tell, and he can't get over the guilt of what happened to her dad, and so he erases her memory of all that and of him. And he says his goodbyes. He says afterwards, once he's already erased her memory, that now that he's lost her, he really sees her value. So that was a very touching scene. Had good music too. That's when we get the next episode where Mao is actually still alive. He's kind of like Fifi. And that's when we get the episode where the next thing Mao does is he kidnaps Lilac's sister, and that's when the whole thing with the chest and the bomb happened in the theater or the carnival. And that time Cece shoots him in the neck, and then I mean, he could still be alive, but I'm assuming because he never came back, he might actually be dead. Who knows? So that was Mao. He was pretty funny with the whole clapping gimmick that he had. And so then, as we reach towards the end of the anime, we get to probably the biggest twist in the whole show for the first season, and that's this whole war going on about Britannia and Japan, or the 11. It's a just and right war. I stand for what Lilac was trying to do. Give me a second. Yeah, I've done a lot of this review already. I think I want to keep it now, so I'm going to go to break so I can finish it. So, I talked about Suzaku. So before I talk about the next phase in the anime, starting with what happened with Yuffie, Lilac is also like Suzaku, except that he does not have faith in the system. He wants to destroy the system and create something new. Whereas Suzaku, as I said before, he wants to create change from within the system. But I still think that that's very naive, because you're just an individual. You have to do a lot of persuading and power influence, and I don't think it's possible when you're dealing with a system that has so many corrupt people in it. So Lilac sees this, and Lilac knows that we have to, the whole thing has to go. The whole thing has to go. And so, as the show goes out, Lilac has just brilliant strategies to try to defeat Britannia. He hits a lot of hardships, a lot of people die, but his intellect and strategy are good enough to come out towards the front. But there are times where he actually loses. 1 second. So Lilac does lose a couple of times, but we kind of get the whole, maybe it's plot armor, you could say. But whenever Lilac does lose and he's about to get killed or captured, CC comes in and gives the same old line, "I can't let you die right now," and saves him. There was some weird parts where Suzaku's gonna capture him, and CC touches his ship, and they all have to trip out this huge, like, psychological type of hallucination that was just freaky. And she just always looks out for Lilac. Now all this time Lilac is building what he calls the Black Knight. I think in episodes 8 or 9 he establishes the Black Knights with Kaylin and Ogi in them, and their goal is to sort of be like a police of the police, like a justice type of organization that fights for the right thing, for the 11, for the poor. And people start questioning Zero sometimes, because they are saying, well, what is the point of this? What exactly are you trying to do? Are we doing the right thing? A lot of people are dying. They want to see more results. So Zero does get questioned a lot, but he always tries to bring faith in them. Now I do want to bring out one more guy. The guy with the Britannia, the Britannian that's in the Black Knights, the guy with the ponytail, the guy that's with the media. Now he is always fanboying over Lilac. He's just a real brother, a real bro. He's a real Lilac bro. He completely supports Lilac, and he says that he wants to document the entire movement that Lilac is doing. And as Lilac, establishes the Black Knights, declares the United States of Japan, defeats the Britannia, and comes close to defeating Britannia over and over again. Goes on TV, makes really bold statements, and advances his movement. You see this guy just cheering him on in the background. He's very happy for Lilac. He's like, I knew. He's like, I have this feeling since I first saw him when he saved Suzaku, he's going to do something incredible for Japan. And so he's always cheering him on. At the end of season 1, he becomes a wanted fugitive, but he still believed sincerely that Lilac was still alive. The Zero was still alive, and when you watch it, you see what happens. And he's just he's one of the most supportive people for Lilac. And I really like his character, because he's Britannian. In the Black Knights, he was suspected of being a double agent or a spy the entire time, but he seems sincere. But he does have his own agenda, though it's in support of Lilac and what Lilac is doing. Now to one of the biggest shocks in the show, or the biggest shock really in season 1. Euphoria, or Yuffie, she decides that 11, she creates a nation within the nation where 11 can be considered Japanese again and can live with the Britannians. And the Britannians are outraged, but especially Caroline. Is that her name? Yeah, Caroline, her sister, Caroline. The one with the purple hair, with the purple machine. So it seems like it might actually do work, though her own sister Caroline was very against. I don't even know if I know. But anyways, so she gathers all the 11 into a stadium when she declares this. after she declares this, and Lilac gets really, really angry with her and wants to kill her now because that's not part of his plan. It was throwing off his plans. So he meets her he wants to talk to her in private. The Britannians are all there with the military, and they said, sure, you can talk to Zero, who is a celebrity at this point, or a revolutionary, I would say, that's well known. And they talk. And CC had warned him before, like what happened with Mao was that Mao lost control of his Geass. It got too strong because it gets stronger to the point where he couldn't really, it was out of his control. And Lilac was telling Yuffie something along the lines of, well, maybe you're gonna kill all 11. Now he didn't mean it, but he said it as his Geass triggered, and so Yuffie starts panicking, like, no, I don't want to do this. That's completely what she was against to do. But then she succumbs to the mind control and goes out. And Lilac's like, what have I done? And Yuffie tells everybody in the stadium, the only 11, that they should kill themselves or die. And then she orders all the military to wipe them out. And the military are confused, but they have to do what she says. So this big slaughter just takes place in the stadium. And it's just shocking to see how everything looked like it was going to come to a peaceful end, and then completely by accident, by the fault of Lilac, everything goes into chaos once more. And that was just a very, very shocking part in the anime. It leads to Lilac having to use... So he creates this problem, and he takes advantage of it to further his agenda, and now he wants to kill Yuffie. So he has his team of the Black Knights fighting the Britannians again, doing this, and also looking for Yuffie, who is inside of a robot, still mind controlled. And then Lilac finds her and manages to shoot her right as Suzaku was getting there with the Lancelot to save her. Now Suzaku at that point still doesn't know that Zero is Lilac, who is his childhood friend, and he loses his mind. He just starts going off on everybody. Because, they were together at that point. They were boyfriend and girlfriend. They were gonna get married. That's what it seemed like. And he goes to her after fighting off the enemies, and she gets care at the ship, but she doesn't make it. She dies, and Suzaku gets extremely angry. And he is very composed and tries to do the right thing, and he doesn't like killing and murder, but he calls Lilac, who he doesn't know is Zero, and tells him that for once he actually hates and wants to kill somebody, that being Zero, or I guess Lilac himself. So at the end of the anime, I kind of already touched upon a lot of things, but there's one more standoff where the Princess Caroline gets into a fight with Lilac, which happens all the time. And though she's winning and she's about to destroy Lilac, Lilac had taken over the mind of her closest aide, and he was in a ship, and he speared Caroline through her ship, basically giving her a mortal wound. She ended up, I suppose, dying from. And at that point, Lilac has destroyed a large part of the city by causing the bottom foundation to collapse. And he's sort of like Yoshi from Texanolize, or he's kind of becoming psychotic in his goal. I mean, he's fighting the good fight, but you can see by the expressions on his face that he is really starting to kind of become almost like a villain kind of. And then, so Yuffie is dead now. Nina, who was the girl that was masturbating to her, she completely loses her mind and tries to blow up the entire 11 city with a bomb she created. And people just start dying, who I already mentioned. And then this little girl comes out of nowhere called Vivi that kidnaps Lilac's sister and takes her to an island. And Lilac, because he's all about his sister, abandons his entire Black Knights to go after her. Now the Black Knights don't know what happened, and they just assume that Zero abandoned them. And Suzaku is just completely out to kill Lilac because he killed Yuffie as Zero, who was going to be Suzaku's wife, and he's just out to kill him. Like, he doesn't. That's what he seemed to want to do at first. And then Kaylin was told to go and help Zero, So she leaves, and everybody is left in the city in a standoff, and that's kind of like where they stop. They don't really explain more after that. Just that in one part of the city, the Britannians are closing in on the Black Knights, and it looks really bad. A lot of them get captured, some of them get killed, and then in the school, Nina is having a mental breakdown and is threatening to blow up the entire city with a bomb she made. Now, fast forward that to the very last episode. Lilac is now on the island, and Kaylin is there, kind of keeping eye on him in the back. And as Lilac is about to go open the door to confront the Vivi who has kidnapped his sister, Suzaku gets there and shoots at him and tells him, stop. I don't know if he shot him, but he told him to stop. And they have a confrontation there where Suzaku says, Kaylin, I know you're there, come out. And he tells her, we need to know who Zero is. We need to see his face. And so he shoots Lilac in the face, but he has that helmet on, but the helmet breaks off. And Suzaku and Kaylin finally see that he's actually Lilac the whole time, who was their schoolmate, childhood friend for Suzaku, comrade of Kaylin. And Kaylin, has like a breakdown on the floor, like, I can't believe you were Zero the whole time. And Suzaku is like, I kind of knew it was you, but I was just in denial of it. And now I know. And then Lilac kind of starts telling, well, you still can't, I still haven't lost. And he reveals that he has a device on his chest that if Suzaku shoots it, it'll blow them all up into pieces. But Lilac also has a gun. So at the very end of the anime, they start arguing with each other about everything that's going to happen, everything that's happened to the point, and how Lilac tells him that he's so naive about the system, and Suzaku tells Lilac that his methods of victory are too bloodthirsty and too chaotic and too destructive, and that there has to be a better way. And in their anger and excitement, they both shoot at each other, and that's where the anime ends. That's the end of Code Geass season 1, and it was a very, very great anime. It's really fast paced sometimes, and you have to just keep up with all the action. The story is great. I liked all the characters. The plot twists were is ridiculous, and it was so good that I watched all 24 episodes of it all in one day. So I would highly recommend this anime. It dwells a lot in the theme of revolution and change. How Suzaku says how Lilac says everybody says the same things over, the same pathetic things over and over again. Somebody has to break the cycle. By that time, one of the interesting things that the anime does is that its dialogues extend over two different conversations. Like Lilac will be talking about something, Suzaku will be talking about something somewhere else with some other person. And the conversations kind of blend with each other, and they transition from Lilac to Suzaku. They're saying the same thing, and they do it a lot in the anime. I thought that was pretty cool. Also, Pizza Hut, that was pretty funny. And I think I saw what I have to say. Really, Code Geass is definitely an anime about revolution and making a change and fighting for what you believe in. But is it the right way? And I've already started season 2, and I'm very looking forward to it. The first episode was confusing, but they explain it in the second episode. And I'll probably finish it in 2 days so I can do my review of season 2. So that's my review of Code Geass season 1. I probably missed a lot of things, but this is all improvised. So if you have any discussions, any comments, just feel free to say. I'll see you at the review for Code Geass season 2.